Good afternoon. My name is Gerardo Segura. I'm with FAO, and we are ready to start this session. We are missing one presenter, Bishop Nagobi, but we don't know if he's in the room. We have been told that he is here. Okay. We only have two presenters that will be sharing the table here. The rest of the presenters will be linked online. And I would like to introduce you to our host, Ms. Lisa Tinkveinen. I hope I pronounced your name well, Lisa. And you are on to start the session. So I'm gonna ask Mr. Lim to come to the podium and share the table with the bishop if he comes in. If not, you will be by yourself. Thank you. So we're ready to start, Lisa.
Thank you very much. Distinguished delegates and participants, ladies and gentlemen, my best wishes from sunny Helsinki from Finland. I work as a professor at the Natural Resources Institute, Finland. A warm welcome to you all for joining today's session overview of the connection of forest ecosystem to human health, well-being and social stability. This session serves as a start for a series of sessions addressing an important theme, forest, human health and well-being, that's been chosen by the organizers as one of the key themes of this 15th World Forestry Congress here in Seoul this week. In this session, we will discuss forest contribution to health and well-being for global societies, from remote forest communities to dense urban populations. And one of our key focus is on understanding better how to build an enabling policy environment that could identify and involve the full range of stakeholders and population groups and the different ways forests and trees can benefit them. I'd also like to wish very warmly welcome our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Hasu Lim, and 5 high-level experts as our panelists today. This session has been organized together with FAO, Korea Forest Service, FECOFUN, C4, Natural Resource Institute Finland, and the University of British Columbia. And our note taker will be today Ms. Choi Ye-ji from the Korean Forest Service. Thank you for your kind help. Today, forest ecosystems are increasingly understood to have multiple direct and indirect linkages to human health and well-being. Health benefits can be gained from rural and peripheral forest as well as from urban and peri-urban forest that may be preserved or managed various ways to meet the needs of the local societies. Adequate supply of forests and their accessibility are crucial for human health and well-being, but so are their structure, their natural features and other qualities that deliver these health benefits. For example, access to and importance of non-wood forest products are a globally shared asset. Other globally valued assets include those psychological benefits and spiritual values that forests provide. Highly biodiverse forests provide an enormous range of plants and animals, many of which have medical values that are of local importance and are commercialized on national and international markets. We also know that forests are increasingly exposed to unfavorable environmental and climatic changes worldwide. Our forests are exposed to human use pressures and activities affecting both the capacity of forest ecosystem to sustain their complexity and resilience, but also the capacity to provide for human needs. In fact, human demands for forest resource have led to increased speed of forest conversion for food production, for urban development, as well to intensified forest management, often for single target uses such as biomass production, that decreases the resilience and functionality of forest ecosystems. These developments also mean that forests contribute contribution to human health is not secured without increased focus on this specific topic in forest policies and local actions. We know that ecological and social and economic conditions vary greatly in different parts of the world, both among countries and even within countries. And we have great variations in forest-human interactions. These different interactions also define the key pathways that successfully can deliver health benefits for the people. Therefore, we need to better understand local relationships that people actually have with forest and how these local interactions contribute to human health. In my home country, Finland, forests cover 75% of the land area. Forests have been a long time an irreplaceable source for health for Finns, and they continue to be so, but increasingly in a changing way. Majority of Finns, 96%, participate in outdoor recreation, and forests are the most typical environment to be physically active. Global COVID-19 pandemic increased considerably the use and appreciation of forest for health and well-being, and in particular the use of forest within and nearby urban areas. In Finland, information regarding health benefits of forest is acknowledged by increasing number of stakeholders and sectors, and is actively discussed also in the media. This knowledge is also included in national bioeconomy and forest strategies, increasingly applied in urban planning and service development in nature-based tourism, as well as lately in social and healthcare sector service development. Now, with this introduction to our theme, I have a great pleasure to invite and welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Hasu Lim, to give his opening remark and set the scene for the session. Mr. Hasu Lim is Director General of the Forest Welfare Bureau at Korea Forest Service. He will address global status and trends for the nexus between forest and human health in rural and urban areas for better livelihoods and well-being and peace for all. Please, Mr. Hasu, the floor is yours.
Distinguished guests, good afternoon. I'm Hasu Lim, Director General of the Forest Welfare Bureau of Korea Forest Service. It is great pleasure to be invited to Value Place to discuss how forest ecosystems are connected to human health and well-being and social stability. As you know, the last 2 years, the world has been experiencing many daily life changes due to the COVID-19. Along with climate change, the new health threat is stark reminder of close relationship between our health and forest, as well as environment problem. The wave of new or re-emerging infectious disease over the last 20 years have become increasingly frequent, posing a direct threat to human health, while causing great damage to society and economics globally. According to UNEP reports, zoonotic disease have caused $100 billion in economic damage over the last 2 decades. Over 60% of new infectious disease and 75% of emerging infectious disease have been zoonotics since the 20th century. Around 250 zoonotic diseases have been reported globally. These diseases originate from animals and attack human beings. SARS in 2003, swine flu in 2009, MERS in 2015 was disease passed to humans from animals, such as migratory birds, civet cat, pigs, and camels, which serve as a reservoir of infection or intermediate host. The coronavirus was also transmitted from the animals, like bat or pangolin, to humans. Although there might be various reasons for the wave of this zoonotic disease, the most fundamental reason may be the destruction of the forest, which are wild habitat. As forest ecosystems shrink, the wildlife has been forced to leave natural habitats and move to areas where human and domestic animals reside, threatening human health. Therefore, it is fair to say that only when the forest is healthy can human be healthy as well. Now, I would like to introduce the policy that Korea Forest Service has been prioritizing regarding forest and humans, human and health, the theme of this discussion. This policy relates to the urban forest healing, and the customized forest welfare by life cycle. Through the constant afforestation and tending, the forest cover has grown to account for 30% of total land area in Korea now, making Korea the fourth among the OECD countries in terms of forest areas. The growing stock is around 165 cubic meters, above the OECD average of 161 cubic meters. However, urban area where 92% of population lives lack forest because of the effect of urbanization and industrialization. Urban forests are increasingly recognized way of dealing with degradation of the living environment caused by fine particle and drought driven by the climate change. In addition, there is growing interest in and demand for the urban forest. According to the research results, urban forests lower the average daytime temperature by 3 to 7 degrees Celsius in summer and remove 108 kilograms per pollutant per hectare. Also, big trees known to reduce the noise by around 10 decibel. Therefore, Korea Forest Service has been posting forests in urban areas and promoting the creation of the urban wind path forest, to channel clean and cool air into the city center by planting trees close together along roads and roads. On the other hand, one of the important issues in Korean society is the rapidly aging population. Korean society is expected to become a post-aged society by 2025. With this in mind, people's interest in the health and effort to restore health and improve the quality of life in nature and the forests are increased. Forest healing is about activity to maintain health and raise immunity rather than directly curing disease. We have been making it easier for people to enjoy the forest healing through the various programs. Research results report that forest healing effectively alleviates the asthma, atopic dermatitis, hypertension, and depressed feeling. And as this effect becomes more widely known, the demand for forest healing is increased. The next is customized forest welfare by life cycles. It aims to provide people of all ages with the necessary welfare service based on the entire life cycles. It ensures that everyone can benefit from forest welfare by offering programs customized for people of all ages. So far, it has been brief introduction to Korea forest welfare policy. Everyone came to realize that the health of forest animals and the people is intricately linked. There is a saying in Korea, you can see as much as you know. Like this saying, I believe that when more and more people understand and agree on the importance of forest, we can enhance the health of both forest and humans in the various ways. However, a lot of our knowledge about forest is just fraction of what a space forest ecosystem contains. Therefore, it is meaningful that experts worldwide gather today to share and discuss various cases. Likewise, the tree grows to form a forest harmoniously. I hope that your achievement will contribute to building peace and prosperity, and the Earth's forest can be passed down to future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hasulim, of these insights to the work you've been doing at the Korean Forest Service. And now we have a chance to listen to the presentations of our panelists on the relevant topics for different contexts, for people living in or near forest, and also what type of situation we have in urban centers with urban populations and industrialized societies. Our first speaker is Mrs. Bharati Pathak, who is the chairperson of Federation of the Community Forest Users in Nepal, and also a focal point for FECOFUND's gender policy and advocacy program. Before this position, he has worked as a treasurer and general secretary of FECOFUND for a decade. She's going to talk about importance of forest for human well-being for those who live and near forest and forest communities. Please, Mrs. Pathak, the floor is yours. Looks like Ms. Pathak has needs some technical assistance. Now it looks it's working. Thank you.
Lisa, Bharat is not there. Could you introduce the second?
If not, it looks like it's not working. Let's
Hello?
move to the next.
Hello?
Now we can
Hello?
hear you. Please, yes, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, like a problem, technical problem. Uh, Thank you, moderator, all panelists and all guests. Thank you so much. I'm Bharati Pathak. I'm a chairperson of the Federation of Community Forestry Users Nepal. I'm very happy share the experience for the Nepal community forestry practice in Nepal. So I think maybe I would like to thanks all organizer in here. I'm going to present like a slide share. I think maybe from your side, I will go to truly present like a slide presentation. Can you help me share?
I wonder if the organizers have your presentation. I
Yeah, I
can't
already
share it.
say.
Yes. Well, I
I
don't know.
already sent it.
Yeah, I know you have sent it, but Geraldo, I mean, is it possible to share the file from Ms. Patak, or should we move forward? Or maybe you have your presentation. I think we are a little bit late for the schedule. Now your presentation is there at the moment.
Yeah, I cannot see, very small.
Yeah.
So I'll share my
Just
experience, but
please go on.
yeah, I'm not looking the slide very wider in here. So I'm going to present especially like a FECOFON, a community forest users group. This is the very group institution, not individually. In Nepal, like FECOFON, Federation of Community Forest Users Nepal, is big civil society organization. We are working since 1995 in here, especially like I have no points, but I'm waiting the slide also. Just I'm presenting here is the community forest users group is the working in directly with the local people and community people who are staying in the forest area. We have a more than 22,000 community forest users group in Nepal. They are playing to the very good role, protect the forest and natural resource, and the very close relation for the peoples and the forest and the people's health. Especially we are learning many things in the global COVID-19 pandemic. Especially we have many resources inside the forest area, and around the 38% forest area covered by the community forest users group, and the 2.2 million hectare forest area managed by the community forest users group, and 2.9 million household affiliated with the community forest users group, and similarly 14 million people affiliated with us. So that and the peoples and the community forestry and the forest is a very important relationship, and manage the forest, especially in the sustainable forest management way. And we have many types of the species inside the forest area, and people are protecting the forest, and they are conserving the forest, not only forest, and there is the forest and the like a land and the land and the peoples also in there. And they are protecting the water also inside the forest area, and protecting the fresh water, and they are protecting the different types of the wood and the non-timber forest, and inside the forest area. So we can see in the before the 30 years, I'm not looking here my slide, but there is the very important picture, especially before the 25 years, and the same places there was the a very barrier land when hand over to the forest to the community forest users group. And that time same places there is the not only greenery, there is the increasing the household peoples, and similarly increasing the forest area. So that practice and that achievement, look at the and the peoples and the forest is very close relation, and they are more contributing to the forest also. Similarly, we learned to many things in the global COVID-19 pandemic, many importance for the forest product, especially medicine plant, different types of the medicine plant in the forest area. So in COVID-19 pandemic time, many peoples are learning and depend for the forest product, especially medicine herbs and the different types of the a wild vegetable and the wild food, and that will be more supported to the people's health. And at that time, and the community forestry are promoting that types of the non-timber forest product and different types of the medicinal plant in there. And similarly, we learn to many things in the community forestry movement is most important in the earthquake time and the COVID-19 pandemic time. Both time was the all rural people or was in the victim, and that time they are very worried, and more than 22,000 community forestry users group actively work in that way, and supply to the timber in the earthquake time, and victim family. And similarly, COVID-19 pandemic time, they supporting to the a healthy food to the peoples. And every household, not only general peoples, they are more focusing to the pregnant women, and a single women and the child and other. So in the wild vegetable and wild food is the most important, and linkage to the such as in the COVID pandemic. And similarly, that types of the different disease time need to the a forest product and healthy. So we are going to that way. How can we linkage to the a forest product and the sustainable forest management practice, and the small producer group, support to the small producer group, a community forest users group and different agriculture group and different women's group are working in the community level. But that will be very interlinked for the peoples and that group. So people are getting the benefit, and the small holder group who are staying in the grassroots level, who are very actively working in the forest area. So that is very important, and they are very well role are playing to the different types of the disease, and very fresh water and taking the oxygen, a very interlinkage for the climate change issues. They are playing to the a community adaptation plan in the grassroots level. So direct impact to the community people, and that time people are actively working in the sustainable forest management practice. So that is the very big achievement in Nepal, and the COVID-19 pandemic time, community people are actively playing to the very good role, support to the each other, and they are learning and they are playing to the important role. And another is the most important for the policy advocacy. FACO fund role is the most important role for the support to the securing the rights for the local community. And that time we are playing to the bridging role and make a very community friendly policy in the three tiers government. We have a federal government and the province level government and the local level government, and the community groups and the local government need to very close role and close together work support to the healthy forest and healthy people, sustainable forest management practice. And they have a they can we establish to the small enterprise and the agroforestry and the forest-based product and the agroforestry product. So that will be very important linkage with the peoples and the forest. So most important for the policies. And all are aware about the a very role model for the Nepal community forestry and the women leadership. In the 50% women are taking the leadership and community forestry users group. And there is inside the community forestry, there is the customary practice. Different ethnic group are protecting the forest like a different culture. So that will be also supporting to the climate change issues agenda. They are reducing and that way. And similarly, CFUG are very common platform like indigenous people, ethnic group, and women's and other. So
Yes.
I'm very sorry, I have not slide. My slide highlighted some point in there, but I'm not looking the my slide, and I'm openly speaking here. I think maybe my time also will
Thank
be.
you. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you so
Patak. I
much.
think we have seen your slides here, and I think we have to move on. We have a little bit. Thank you. We have now your last slide here. Thank you very much for your contribution. And let's move forward with the presentation. The next speaker is Dr. Matilda van den Bosch, who is going to talk us about mental and physiological health benefits for urban population and industrialized societies. She works as a senior associate researcher at the Barcelona Institute for Global Health in Spain, and she studies the impact of urban natural environments on human health, in particular childhood health and development. And she has acted as an advisor to, for example, FAO, WHO, and the UN Environmental Programme. Matilda, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for the kind introduction. So now the question is, can you see me and hear me?
Yes, we can see and hear you well.
That's great here. Second question is, where is my presentation? Is it online or is it uploaded there? Can you see anything? I can't see it.
Not yet. Now we can have it. The first slide is there.
Okay, so then I also have a miniature version here. All right, so thank you very much. Thanks for the kind invitation to present at this great Congress. Good afternoon, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. I'm really happy to be here and to share some of my thoughts and research around one of the passions in my life, the association between nature and health, in particular urban forests and health. Cool, so I can control it. Wonderful. So I write here that we need more trees and less medicines. And why do I do that? Well, I used to work as a physician in Sweden and treating patients at the hospital mainly. However, after a while, I realized that the tools and the medicines that we used in the hospital were not adequate really for the kind of diseases that the patients were suffering from, because they are mostly lifestyle related and environmentally related diseases we suffer from. So that's when I got more interested in looking into the environmental impact on human health, and in particular natural environments and urban green spaces. So in 2017, I published this article, No Time to Lose, Green the Cities Now, together with my colleague, Mark Nievenhuisen. What we basically try to say that it's a call for urban planners and decision makers that we know enough by now. We have enough evidence that green spaces are good for health, and it's about time to use this as an efficient population health measure. Right, so why is this so? Well, time has changed, and with that, the disease scenario has changed as well. So rather than infectious diseases, we suffer from diseases that are related to a number of risk factors, which are stress, physical inactivity, loneliness, urbanization, and climate change, for example. So this means that in order to address the disease scenarios, we need to do something about these risk factors and prevent people from coming to the hospital in the first place. And so a lot of the research around nature and health are looking into the different pathways. And we know from research that having access and being exposed to green spaces increases physical inactivity in population, having access to parks and so on, promotes social interactions in a community. And by being out in nature, we also achieve stress recovery and stress relief. In addition, we have let me see, can we go back to the previous slide? Wonderful, thank you. So in addition, we have urban green spaces can contribute to adapting to and mitigating the climate change threats by, for example, reducing the urban heat island and reducing air pollution. And all of these things are major threats to human health today. So I would say that basically every week, new studies are coming out that show that through these pathways, nature reduce, for example, cardiovascular diseases, mental illness, diabetes, cancer even, and reduce mortality. In addition, nature promotes childhood cognitive development, increases well-being and happiness. So that is why we are looking into using nature as a health promoting tool. Right. So one of the things I wanted to focus on a little bit on mental health and urbanization. And we also know from a lot of research has shown that depression and schizophrenia, two major mental disorders, are more common in cities compared to the countryside and in forest communities. And this is important because mental illness, depression is today one of the most common diseases globally. And suicide is the most common reason for death in many countries. So there's obviously something in the urban environment that has put a mental strain on human beings, and therefore we need to do something about the urban environments, especially with increasing urbanization and so on. All right, so Greg Bratman and his colleagues made an interesting study, conducted an interesting study where they compared, they had their participants in the study were randomized into two separate groups, and one of the groups were had a walk in a park in a natural environment, while the other group had a walk in an urban setting, in a built-up setting. And the time and pace and everything of these were standardized, of these walks. They measured before the walks the participants' tendency to rumination, which is sort of a negative thought spin where we have this sort of anxious thoughts and rumination about future worries. So they measured this with questions and also with brain imaging technique. Then after the walk, do we get on with to the next slide? After the walk, they did the same kind of measurements and found that the participants that had been in nature had a decrease in their rumination tendency. And this was also demonstrated in the brain images, when they saw that this area of the brain that is activated during rumination is leaves will have a decrease in the in this activation. So they didn't see any more activation in this area, which while this did not happen in the urban walk group, and there was a significant difference in both measurements. As Lisa said, I've been focusing mostly on childhood health and development as of late, and this is a study from British Columbia in Canada, where we had a population-based cohort looking at almost 40,000 children. And this one was recently published in Environment International. And what we found was that children who grew up in areas with a lot of air pollution and only little green had a 62% increased risk of attention deficit disorder, while if you, on the other hand, were growing up in a really green area with little air pollution, the risk decreased with 50%. We were very happy about this study because it got a lot of media attention, and this is, you know, this is important for us because we do our research and we are passionate about it, but without having any impact, it's of less importance, of course. So we were really happy because if this gets out into the media, and there was a lot of international media attention, there is actually a chance for getting this into policy action and decisions around urban planning. And even the WHO Director for Environment and Health, Maria Neira, made a tweet about it. So you see, we can actually have an impact on policy making as well. Let me see, next slide. Yes, I want to wrap up to keep this a little bit short to keep us in time. But talking about policy impact, these kind of studies are also very important. This one was also published very recently by colleagues of mine at the Barcelona Institute for Global Health. They made a health impact assessment across a number of European cities and showed that if the cities lived up to the WHO recommendations of having access to green spaces within 300 meters, from each resident, 43,000 lives can be saved each year. And the sad thing is that only 60%, that 60% lacked this sort of access to green spaces. So there are a lot of improvements to be made to improve population health. I do want to mention as well the Erasmus project I'm involved in, Green for Care, Green for Sea. We are working on developing education for green care initiatives, entrepreneurship, and green care in this context means that you provide healthcare in, for example, forest settings and urban green spaces. I would suggest you to visit the website because there are a lot of nice and interesting case studies and examples of these kind of initiatives. And if you want to read more about this topic, there is a lot of literature out there right now. For example, the textbook, Oxford Textbook on Nature and Public Health that I edited together with my colleague, William Bird. Okay. Thank you very much, is what I said on the next slide here. And I look forward to your questions later on if there is time.
Thank you very much, Matilda, for your insights and your great work. And let's hope we have some time to discuss after all the presentations about the future work also. And next, I'd like to invite Mr. Bishop Nobeli, who is working at as a conservation manager at Johannesburg City Parks and Zoo, and he's sitting also in the World Urban Parks as a board member and serves as a World Urban Parks Regional Committee chairperson in Africa. He is going to talk about today enhancing forests and trees as a natural asset for social stability, the role of urban greening and tree planting. Please, Mr. Nobeli, the floor is yours.
Good morning from South Africa. I was supposed to be there, but unfortunately due to the pandemic, I couldn't come through. And I'm delighted and thanks for the invitation from the World Forestry Congress. And today I'll talk about the contribution of our work in the urban space. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The landscape of South Africa, as we are, everyone knows the legacy of apartheid in South Africa, where the landscape has changed dramatically, and it was upon us to make sure that during this pandemic we take advantage of these landscapes and see how can we contribute to better the people of South Africa and also the greening of this country. Next slide, please. As you can see on this slide, the difference where you've got much bigger green space and other side you've got many people that are staying without green spaces, and said how do we make sure that we bridge that particular divide by using tree planting. But I just want to show you the impact of lockdown or the impact of COVID-19 in terms of our urban landscapes. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. As you see, during lockdown, all our green spaces where we couldn't access them. Every single area was locked so that people cannot use them. Looking at other countries in Europe, people were able to use these green spaces. But in South Africa, during lockdown 5, all these spaces were locked. We couldn't access them. People couldn't go and recreate. People couldn't go and do plant trees. People were stranded and they couldn't do anything. Next slide, please. These are pictures, areas like the zoo, areas like parks. We couldn't access this green spaces. This had a huge impact on people's health and people's well-being, because they were in their houses without any recreated, without any going to open space. These uh, challenges make so much impact in people, and they couldn't do anything. And we had to come up with some ways to say, how do we make sure that when we open all these spaces, people get to enjoy these spaces? Next slide, please. These are some of the pictures of what happens during lockdown, where no one was able to access these spaces. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. What happened after lockdown? We saw people now starting to appreciate these urban landscapes. People that are sitting in urban areas started to realize that, wow, we are so lucky to have these spaces around us. Apart from people who are in the villages everywhere where they've got much spaces, but people that are in the urban context were struggling. Now, when we opened, we saw influx of people that has never been in hiking anymore, but they started using these spaces. They started to enjoy these spaces. Next slide, please. Look at visitors, people from who have never visited all this space. They start asking, where is this space? Where is this space? Because everyone wanted to be outside. Next slide, please. Recreation. People started going out on bicycles. People started using these spaces. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. These are all the outdoor. We started building new parks. We started building new areas where people started to enjoy. Said, wow, now instead of being locked in this area, COVID-19, even though had an impact on us, but we took advantage of COVID-19 during after lockdown. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes. What we did, amazing, during COVID, we started a greening program where we started planting more trees and everything. The president of the country announced that in South Africa, we're going to plant 10 million trees. And the Department of Forestry, Fishery and the Environment, led by Deputy Minister Honorable Ms. Sotru, announced that we're going to plant 10 million trees. Out of that, we said, every year we're going to plant 2 million trees. By doing that, we started shifting to say, how do we make sure that greening our open spaces becomes much important. And we use this opportunity from the president to say, let's plant more trees. By planting more trees, people in the past would plant trees, just planting trees. But now with COVID, people started uh, being part of this tree planting, said, you know what, if I go and plant a tree, it symbolizes something to me because of everyone and anyone has been impacted by COVID-19. So when we plant trees, we said, just plant trees just to symbolize something that happens in you. So instead of people go and plant just tree any day, now there's trees that they plant has got no more meaningful now. Next please. This is the picture of the deputy minister planting tree as a symbolic that there's hope. So people started having that uh, uh, attachment to trees because of COVID-19. And we said, if you have been impacted by COVID or affected by COVID-19, will you be able to plant a tree? So everyone started realizing that by planting a tree in the urban landscape, it's important for that particular person because they know that it symbolizes something. So tree planting becomes much more different to how we planted trees in the past. And everyone embarked on planting trees every single day. And you can go through, while I'm talking, you can go through the slides of us planting trees. Everyone, every single official, every single community, they started planting trees. So the urban landscape started changing, and the green divide that you saw on the first slide started changing because now we are greening more of our communities, our disadvantaged areas, and not only on the affluent area, but now in townships, in informal settlement, people started planting trees. Trees becomes much important
Thank
setup
you,
for
Mr.
them.
Thank you, Mr. Nobeli. Can you wrap up in one
Yes.
minute, please?
Yes, you can gather. But what we did, we come up with something called Garden of Remembrance with the department, where everywhere where we plant trees, we put these gardens. So everyone in these parks, everyone started being attached to tree planting because of these gardens of remembrance. You can go through the slides. Well, so these gardens of remembrance, every now and then when people visit these parks, they are able to connect with these parks and also participate in tree planting. Thank you. You can go through the slides. It's fine. These are some of the gardens that we put. These are tree planting. So everyone started enjoying tree planting and as part of and greening their communities, and it becomes an amazing part. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nobeli, for your insights and your great work and these findings linked to COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you. Then we have our next speaker from Australia, Professor Thomas Astelbert, Professor of Population Health and Environmental Data Science. And he also is a founding co-director of the Population Wellbeing and Environment Research Lab. And he's going to talk us about proven benefits for mitigating urban stresses as well as risks and disservices of urban trees. You are very welcome, Thomas. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. As a starting point, what I would like to do is acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm speaking from today. That's the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I note on my screen that there seems to be a slide of some description, which is not mine, but I shall...
It's the next presenter's slides, but I think you don't have slides, but you can go on.
I do not. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, you can just...
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you. And what I would just like to say how wonderful it is to see Bishop's work and also hear from Matilda earlier. And I'm particularly looking forward to hearing from Ulrika next. I am especially interested in trying to reveal the full net health benefits from tree planting and from green spaces in general, because I am worried, often worried, ladies and gentlemen, that the public understandings of the green space get unnecessarily narrowed down to something like physical activity or whatever it may be, when Matilda quite clearly showed there's multiple benefits out there. I'm going to take you through what I feel is a very underappreciated benefit, which maybe many of us on the call today and the people who we know have all experienced over the last couple of years: loneliness. In Australia, around about 27% of adults were feeling lonely on multiple days a week. And now some of you may go, so what? But the scientific literature now shows that there's hundreds of studies linking loneliness with depression and dementia and heart disease and diabetes and a whole heap of things we would really rather avoid. Over the last few years, we estimate now, just last year, that the prevalence of loneliness in Australia has reached 40%. Now, this is including loneliness from feeling an absence of one's social networks through to the absence of a loved one, a companion you can share in the troubled times as well as the good times. 40%, that's awfully high, especially when you take into account that there's not a lot we can do about it in terms of the academic literature. Many solutions are either weak or ineffectual. Until now, just in February, this year is going by so fast, isn't it? Just in February, my lab, the Power Lab, published what I think is the first longitudinal analysis, which showed that if you were to increase tree canopy cover and parkland more generally, from about 10% up to about 30%, you reduce the incidence of loneliness by 52%, ladies and gentlemen. That's that number just over there. By a half, ladies and gentlemen. This is among people who are living alone and we know are already at an increased risk of becoming lonely. This is fantastic because it says people not only come together, but make those meaningful relationships that quench that thirst for companionship and connection and even camaraderie. All of this is wonderful, except when you think about where we are at. Many areas in the city that I am living in Sydney, have less than 10% green cover and much less tree canopy cover. We have a lot to do in order to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to benefit. Now, the great thing is, many cities around the world are committed to at least 30% tree canopy cover. Barcelona, Vancouver, Seattle, Canberra even, the capital of Australia. Meanwhile, Sydney and Melbourne here in Australia have committed to 40%. This is all wonderful, wonderful news. The third statistic I want to show you here is 33%. What's that? You see, increasing the tree canopy cover, increasing and conserving the parklands will help with supply. But there's another side of the equation, and that is demand or even need. 33% of Australian adults spend less than 2 hours a week in any form of natural surrounding. That's self-defined, and it can include, as many of you will be aware in Australia, beaches, but also mountains, our parklands, and down by the blue spaces as well. Any nature. A third of adults don't get even 2 hours a week in nature. That's terrible, isn't it? Especially for a land which is very stereotypically an outdoorsy community, an outdoorsy place to be with beautiful temperatures. A third. So, what to do about this? Well, inspiration is coming from places such as in Canada. Dr. Melissa Lamb, who I believe may be part of this conference or is indeed part of other conferences, is very much spearheading the way in terms of promoting nature prescriptions, in terms of getting people outdoors, advising, recommending, finding ways to enable and empower people to spend time in nature. We did a little bit of analysis on this because we want to try and do more of this in Australia. And we found the last statistic, ladies and gentlemen, 82% of adults in Australia would say, yes, please. If a doctor or a health professional said, I think you should spend more time in nature for the goodness of your health, and here's a way to do it, 82% would say, oh yes, tell me more. I would be very interested in that. And so you see here, ladies and gentlemen, this is the new frontier that we have, with Matilda already quite eloquently saying, we already know that green is good. Now we need to know how to implement it and how to ensure that everyone has a fair shake of the sauce bottle, as we say in Australia. How do we make sure that this is a credible thing which health services will prescribe, and to ensure that those with the highest potential to benefit do so? Thank you very much for your time. I'll hand back to the chair.
Thank you very much, Thomas, from your views from Australia and these great steps that cities and authorities and actors, stakeholders are taking in greening the urban environments. Thank you. And now it's the time for our last but not least speaker, Professor Ulrika Stigsdottir, who is Professor of Landscape Architecture in Copenhagen University. And she is project leader and responsible architect for the Nature Health and Design Lab there. And she's going to talk us about evidence-based health design and nature-based treatment for human health and well-being. And we will also see a interesting video in the end of her presentation that will close our panelist session for panelists. The floor is yours, Ulrike.
Thank you. I'm trying to share screen. Does it work?
Yes, it's going fine.
You can see my slides. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Professor Tyrväinen, for the kind presentation, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me to this very relevant sub-theme. So the interconnections between forests, health and well-being that I am going to talk about are related to design and nature-based health interventions. And I will base much of my presentation on the research and experiences my multidisciplinary research team and I have done and gained in our Nature Health and Design Lab, which is a full-scale out-of-doors lab located in a forest-like arboretum north of Copenhagen in Denmark. Currently, it consists of 2 settings: an Acadia forest therapy garden designed for people suffering from stress-related illnesses, and Octavia Health Forest designed to promote mental health. Later this year, we plan to expand the lab with a new setting called Move Green Accessible Forest Trail. And the aim of this is to design a trail that is accessible for people with mobility disabilities and to offer the users improved physical, mental, and, as you said, Thomas, social health as well. So the awareness of the positive relation between nature exposure and human health is by no way a new idea. Rather, it can be understood as a rediscovery of an idea that has been considered to be quite self-evident for a very long time. Written descriptions of city plans that explicitly mention health in relation to location, structure, and access to parks have been traced back to antiquity. So, but today we have sufficient evidence to support the idea that natural environments can promote health and can act as supportive environments for therapies. The demand for different types of natural environment that promote health or support treatment is increasing globally. The WHO, the UN, the EU all acknowledge the important role natural environments can play in relation to human health. And this is related to the rapid development of health design in landscape architecture, which can be defined as the conscious design of natural environments so that they, in a predefined way, support health processes and result in improved health outcomes. However, designing natural environments to promote health or support therapies also comes with responsibilities, especially when designing for vulnerable groups, like sick people or people with disabilities. Research and practical experience show that sick people may perceive, understand, and interpret the environment totally different from healthy people. This means that while a healthy person may experience a nature setting as beautiful and lovely, a sick person may interpret it as something very negative and even threatening due to their situation. In this case, the nature setting will not support the health of the sick person. Indeed, It may even worsen the person's condition. Regarding health design and landscape architecture, it is fundamental to understand that not all natural environments support health. So just making cities greener does not necessarily mean that they will promote health. I will now address 3 questions in relation to my introduction. How should we design natural environments in order to support health? How should the natural environment be used in order to support health? And who will or can develop and lead nature-based interventions in the natural environments? My answer to the first question is simply to work evidence-based. Landscape architecture is gradually becoming a more evidence-based profession where evidence is integrated into the aesthetics of the design. In health design and landscape architecture, where it is crucial we deliver what we promise, it seems obvious to me to include evidence from both research and practice in the design phase. It is worth mentioning that in many countries, an architect has to be qualified in evidence-based design in order to be allowed to design, for example, a hospital. Designing in an evidence-based manner can be done in many ways. Here I take the opportunity to show you a model that my research group and I have been dedicated to developing, applying, and validating for the last 15 or actually 20 years. This model has been used when designing all 3 settings in our lab. Some strengths with this process model are that it is centered around nature and human relations, and that it can be adjusted for each unique project. Further, it is systematic, transparent, and includes an evaluation. And on this slide, you can see the process model's 4 main steps: evidence collection, programming, design, and evaluation. There is no time for me today to present this model in detail, but I want to highlight the importance of including a post-occupancy evaluation in order to understand if the setting fulfills the aim of the design, meaning, does it actually support health? A disturbing tendency is that some very well-designed natural environments have been constructed, but not used by the target group or users as intended. The consequences is that the potential of natural environment to support health and well-being is reduced or even not realized at all. Therefore, I was very pleased in 2017 when I saw that the WHO also had noted this. And in their report, Urban Green Space and Health, it is stated, understanding how to design and deliver effective urban green space interventions is critical to ensuring that urban green space delivers on its reported positive health, social, and environmental outcomes. So my answer to this question is, if the design is supposed to support a specific nature-based treatment program or nature-based activity guide to promote health, there must be a connection between the planned interventions and the related activities and the design of the landscape. So, preferably, the programs or guides will be developed alongside the design, which could promote an interconnectedness between them. This will secure that the design matches the client's treatments process by both supporting and challenging them, and make sure that the site provides meaningful activities all year around. And our definition of the form of nature-based therapy that we offer in our therapy garden capture this interrelation between the treatment and the design of the garden, and you can see it here. So our nature-based therapy is defined as body-integrated and nature-based psychotherapy, where various nature activities and nature experiences are used as therapeutic tools. The natural environment is specially designed to support the therapeutic process, and the therapy is adapted to a specific target group to promote defined treatment goals. Nature-based therapy is currently spreading rapidly in Danish municipalities. This has affected us at the university massively. The reason is that the municipalities should only offer treatment and rehabilitation programs that are evidence-based or research-based. So, the last slide. So who is developing and leading those nature-based interventions? And the answer to this question is, of course, depending on each project, but I want to go back to where I started this presentation. Natural environments can promote health and can act as supportive environments for therapies. When we talk about therapies, we mean treatment for sick people. Again, this comes with responsibilities. And in many countries, the titles nature-based therapist, forest therapist, or horticultural therapists are no protected titles, meaning anybody with or without a therapeutic education can offer nature-based treatment. In Denmark, we have developed a one-year professional master program, and I know that similar educational programs are now running around the world. This is good. This is a good and necessary trend for the quality and future of nature-based therapy. And with those words, I will end this part of my presentation, and I will now briefly introduce a short film about our therapy garden. So, the history behind this film started in 2017 when Matilda McQuaid came and visited me at my office at the university. It turned out that Matilda is Deputy Director of Curatorial at Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum in New York. She came to my office because she was planning a design exhibition called Nature and was interested in knowing more about our forest therapy garden and planned to include it in the exhibition. And she decided to do that. So this visit was just the first meeting of many to follow, preparing our contribution to the exhibition. The museum described the goal of the exhibition as follows. Designers are forging meaningful connections with nature, inspired by its properties and resources. Their collaborative processes, working with nature and in teams across multiple disciplines, are optimistic responses at this moment when humans contend with the complexities and conditions of our planet. Compelled by a sense of urgency, designers look to nature as a guide and partner. So the design exhibition was a parallel exhibition between both Hewitt Cooper Smithsonian Design Museum in New York and Cube Design Museum in the Netherlands in 2019 and 2020. And we were selected to be one out of 62 international design teams. Our contribution consisted of an installation where we built a room from our garden, so to speak, a virtual reality film, which was like a walk through the garden, and you could also hear quotes from former patients where they described their experience of the garden. And we also made this short information film, which we are going to see now. The film will very briefly describe the ideas behind the design, explain our form for nature-based therapy, and some key research results. And I do hope you will enjoy it. And I will try to start the film now.
Acadia Therapy Garden. Trees grow in lush forest. Acadia's design is based on a model heavily protected by the sea. From the tree canopy ends. The sound of a bubbling spring takes over and leaves the patients in Acadia's Park, the bonfire site, where the therapy starts. Too soon for a zoom. In Acadia therapy is nature-based. It means that we take psychotherapy outside the hospital, and that we use different activities and experiences in the environment.
Thank you very much, Ulrike, for the great, beautiful video showing Nakadia, and for your sharing your work with us. So I think we are coming very close to the end of our session, and looks like we don't have time for, unfortunately, for the panel discussion today. And I have, I guess it's time for my concluding remarks, which will be a short one. First of all, warm thanks to all presenters for your insights today, and sharing your work that you do with great enthusiasm. And we've learned that really today we have much better and stronger knowledge base from forest health benefits than before, and that information is really being used and acknowledged by increasing number of stakeholders and sectors, and discussed in media and put also into practice. We have seen great examples today. And we also know that people are not doing so well different parts of the world. We have new problems, loneliness, increased depression. We have had a COVID pandemic that has affected many populations, many nationalities, but also trees have been, and the forests have been important solution to soothe the stress caused by pandemic, and trees, we heard today, they also connect people. And so one key task is really for the future to really keep people in contact with forest and create such forests that provide high level health benefits for exactly the user groups we would like them to be used. So and also today we have heard that we really need even an increased focus on a human health topic, both in different level of forest policies and other policies and local actions. And I'd like to leave you with some key points that include, first of all, that global and national forest policies should address more specifically public or population health promotion as the target. And in these policies, we need to increasingly target multiple use forestry also, and better identify what forest use targets have strong synergies with health benefits and where we have actually big trade-offs. My second point is that in this urbanizing world, policies focusing on sustaining forests and woodlands in and around towns and cities are still needed, and even needed more than before, because we need to provide health benefits of forest where the people are. And in these urban forest policies, we should find strong links and synergies with climate abatement and, for example, biodiversity policies. It's really necessary. And my third point is that we need to provide means for actions to continue increase collaboration between forestry, health, and social sector experts, as well as land use planners, and provide funding for demonstration projects, policy instruments and incentives to support this type of work, research and education and communication, that we can continue put this great evidence base into to practice and even strengthen the evidence base. In this context, I'd like to mention ongoing UFRO-led Global Forest Expert Panel work focusing on forest and human health. This assessment will provide synthesized scientific information regarding forest and health in different global situations in the world. And the report will be presented and the associated policy brief will be published early next year. So, distinguished delegates and participants, thank you for joining us today, there in Seoul or in Seoul in person or online. I hope you have received food for thought and have been inspired by today's presentations. Thank you once more to our high-level experts for your valuable contribution, and many thanks to Mr. Gordon Manu from FAO for your kind help and as well as all other collaborators in preparing this session. I wish you a fruitful continuation of the World Forestry Congress this week. Thank you very much.